Right there.
Okay, good.
There we go. 31 frames a second.
2 minutes late. 3 minutes late. Yeah, well, that's all right. Thank you all for who waited. Gene.
Hey, Gene, there he is.
Is he there?
Yeah.
Gene's there already, huh?
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah.
This is the Jimmy Doane Show, everybody. We stream this show live twice a week at 4 p.m., Wednesdays and Sundays, here on this channel. You're welcome to comment. We can't check the comments and still keep the show going, unfortunately, but we'll get back to them as soon as we can, right afterward.
Once we get over 1,000 listeners, we can get a producer.
Well, we will. Eventually, yeah. We'll have that ability. And you can also send us questions in advance, of course.
Yeah.
So, today is the 28th of November. And
this is Councilor Curtis.
That's me.
And Jimmy Doane.
And that's him.
That's me. That's right.
So what's going on?
Okay, well, we got some... unfortunately, I did not have time to arrange this in any particular order, so I don't know what we're going to do for backgrounds.
Nice. The transporter's in good shape.
Transporter, okay. The first one I got, of course, is we talked a little bit about this before, but it's interesting how it keeps cropping up, and that's the Tijuana, Mexico.
Oh, the border. I can bring us right there, down to the border, no problem. Okay. Kablamo!
What am I doing?
Oh, you're at the border. Oh, I see. You're okay. You're up there. So we're in the same place. It's very close. It's very close.
I got a feeling I'm on one side of the border.
Yeah, it looks like you're on the Mexico side.
Okay, good deal. Lo siento, pero mi español no es bueno. So anyway, the picture, the offending picture is the woman running with her 2 daughters in front of tear gas. Widely published photo from Sunday's confrontation at the border between some members of the caravan and the U.S. border authorities. And it looks like, now if you've seen this picture,
yes,
it is the epitome of fake news. I mean, totally. And what is amazing to me is I forget who it was that wrote a BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed wrote an article that said something like, "Oh, this is terrible. This is what's happening there. You know, tear gas, crying babies. How can you pepper spray kids like this?" Well, you don't have to look at the picture much to realize that, first of all, one of the kids is in diapers and bare feet. She's got 6 kids. They interviewed her. She said she's from Honduras, but apparently somebody else interviewed found out she's local from Tijuana. I mean, you know, here's the thing. Who is doing this interviewing?
Well, you don't think she dragged her kids up there to get tear gas, though, do you?
She's apparently, yeah.
No, come on.
No. Of course she didn't. I mean, that's the whole point. But here's the thing. There's 2 things that are involved here. One, the picture obviously is designed to evoke some kind of emotion that is not true. I mean, here she is, you know, she's not exactly underweight, and she's got 2 kids that are twins. She's dragging them out of the way, and in the background, you can see some smoke that maybe is tear gas, you know, I don't know. But it's, you know, it looks like it's about 50 yards in back of her. But then somebody else showed the picture in its entirety. And they showed, you know, people just milling around up there near the wall, and there, you know, there's hundreds of people that are not running. Not running. And to me, it looks so obviously somebody in diapers running barefoot made the 1,000-mile trek from Honduras.
Yeah. Look, that could very easily be the case. Look,
whatever you say.
She just took off her shoes or whatever. Look, the caravan gets to the border, and you're right. There are other elements in the picture, and there's cameramen. You can see camera people and stuff. But of course they're going to be there. Look, what happened is some people found a little hole in the border right near there, and they stormed through there at one point and made it to the secondary border before they were pushed back or whatever. And so my point is that they're there. It's a dangerous situation. Some people threw some rocks at the border agents, and they lobbed some tear gas back at them. I don't think this lady thought that was going to happen. Look, she's there with her kid. There's no way she's putting her kids in that position. Even if they paid her, even if she's local Tijuana, they said, "Listen, take kids down there. We're going to light off some tear gas next to you." No way. That's not what happened. But they probably did say, "Look, we're going to set up a bunch of cameras around here, and you know, they're going to catch whatever shenanigans are going on." One tear gas canister. Look, it's not like they sprayed him with bullets or anything. I mean, what I don't understand is how come he didn't lob a bunch of laughing gas over there? That's what I would.
Right, you don't light your socks up.
Yeah, you know. then you had a really interesting scene with everybody cracking up on the videos. But if this woman is I'm gonna go out and say she's an innocent person, and that there's no way she's putting her kids in
I don't think she did. I think what happened was, when you see the picture, my feeling is that she was dragged up there 50 yards in front of, quote, the tear gas, out of harm's way, and said, run for it, we're going to take a picture.
It's possible.
I think it was staged.
It could have been, but I think it's more likely that what they said is, look, we'll pay all you guys to make this caravan or whatever, or we'll help you get there. And then when you're there, just stay right up here at the wall or whatever, and we're gonna get the cameras out. And if something happens, we'll catch it. But don't worry, because they're Americans and they won't hurt you and whatever. And feel free to storm the border if you feel like it. I mean, a lot less innocuous. This is not a staged situation. There's no way.
Okay, I disagree with you. I think the thing was totally staged. Okay,
but we'll find out if she was hired. If she's local Tijuana, that'll come out.
Well, it did. There was somebody that named her name, blah blah blah, the whole deal, and then somebody else named her name and said, she's got 6 kids from Honduras, and of course she's got 2 of them in tow. Where are the other 4? I mean, asking myself all these. A lot of stuff here just doesn't make sense. I'm going with the easy, as Scott Adams would say, I'm going with the simplest explanation.
The Occam's razor. Yeah,
exactly. Simplest thing.
I think the simplest thing is the opposite. I think the simplest thing is they made the caravan up there. They're hanging out by the wall. Some people threw some rocks, and they lobbed a canister at them.
When you look at the big picture, she's 150 yards from the wall.
So what?
And she's 50 yards in front of anything that resembles tear gas. I just think the whole thing was staged. Okay, I'm moving on.
Yes.
Our next item. This is something that's a little scary. McConnell vows congressional response to the abhorrent, quote unquote, Khashoggi slaying. So what he's going to do is, in the Senate Majority Mitch McConnell denounced the role of Saudi Arabia in killing the journalist, calling it abhorrent. It says that it deserves a congressional response. And of course the question is, what?
Right.
What are you going to do?
Right.
I mean, what on this planet are you going to do? And I think that we've said this. Scott Adams talked about this before. Trump knows exactly what happened, but I mean, the fact is that $150 billion worth of arms sales. And I'm sorry, when a local government on their local territory kills their local citizen, not my problem.
Yeah, and I don't think it's that much. I think it's more like 36 billion, but still.
Okay, if it's 1 billion.
Well, I'm with you, and look, as we've talked about many times, they kill people all the time over there. They lop off people's heads for being gay, women for driving. I mean, up until recently, crazy shit. Yeah.
It is a dictator. What do you call it? A tyrant type thing, right? Whatever you call it. I mean,
also they're our proxy to fight with Iran.
Right.
We use them a lot. We give them some arms so that they'll go over there and bust them up, and we don't have to show that in our newspapers. So, I mean, you can call it evil, which I think it is to some extent, but that's what we do and have been for doing for a long time.
We don't have any problem with them bombing the crap out of Yemen.
Well, exactly.
17 years. How long is it? Afghanistan.
There's tons of people. I mean, you want to talk about innocent women and children?
Right.
I mean, we're talking about probably hundreds of thousands of innocent women and children involved right now in the war in Yemen and in militarized zones.
Well, but we have a previous Secretary of State who said that 500,000 deaths were just fine in Kosovo when she was there. What was her name? Madeleine Albright.
Oh, right. That's an expected, collateral damage.
Collateral damage, right? 500,000 kids. Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, and also, let's not forget, we're about to kill our own journalists here. We put Chelsea Bradley Manning in freaking prison for a long time. Drove him crazy or whatever, her or whatever. Yeah. We got who else? Julian Assange is about to be extradited. If we get our hands on him,
yeah.
Edward Snowden,
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, these guys are basically doing the same things that journalists have done.
Exactly.
And
and of course, even what's his name from the Pentagon Papers, Ellsberg, he got away with. I mean, they didn't lynch. They tried to put him in court and everything, but the Supreme Court said, no, this is fine. You can do whatever you want.
Well, that kind of cuts against the argument that says we're good. That says our system fixed it.
Oh, right. Okay.
But the administration,
right
at the time.
Yeah. So we'll see. Okay, next thing that's really bad.
Okay.
This is really horrible. The International Space Station is infested with a mysterious and potentially dangerous space bugs.
Okay.
Scientists have discovered a
This
thriving...
goes along with our Mars story too, right?
Well, yes, we're going to get there.
Well, let me take us over to NASA. I can bring us to NASA.
Okay.
That's right here in Florida. So the
No,
transporter.
it's also, of course, the Mars thing was also in JPL.
Bammo!
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, crap!
I'm on Mars. Thank you so much. So where's the little guy from Bugs Bunny cartoons?
He's probably back there somewhere.
That's
but
right.
You know what? I can fix it. The transport. I got enough juice since I'm right here. I just got me. Let me see if I can get you out of here. I'll get you over to Kennedy here. Here we go. Here, just kablamo.
Okay.
Oh, you know where you're in the Apollo control room. You're here, but you're in the museum.
Okay, good deal.
So
what you should have done was to find the meme that somebody showed up and
with the Martian on there.
all the Martians.
Oh, right.
All the Martians with science in English.
Right.
Go home. Go home. And all this. I thought that was kind of could have put me in front of that. So I thought it was interesting they learned English. But anyway,
hey, they know smart.
That's right. They're smart. So anyway, they apparently they found some kind of a couple of different species, and what I'm thinking is, we've seen so many sci-fi movies where
okay, when you mean. You don't mean real bugs, do you?
No, I mean that says five different varieties of Enterobacter, which are similar to bugs found in hospitals down here on Earth.
Oh, I thought they were computer bugs.
No,
okay.
These are organisms.
Actual bugs.
Actual bugs. The toilet of the orbiting space station was one of the main sites of infection, along with the exercise area. Researchers calculated that there's a 79% probability that they may potentially cause disease, although analysis that has been carried out on dead samples at this stage could prove that the risk to be higher or lower. Okay, good deal, 50-50. What does that mean? It is feared that some drugs, bacteria, could be drug resistant. And so here's the deal. We're going to bring them back to Earth. And, we've seen the science fiction movies where the organisms take over. That's all you need is a space-based organism.
But these aren't space-based. These obviously came with us.
Maybe. Everything's supposed to be so sterilized and everything.
Yeah, but they jumped off the humans.
Given the multi-drug resistance results for these bacteria and the increased chance of pathogenicity, we have identified these species potentially posing important health considerations for future missions. Well, of course, we do know about the other organism that lives in outer space up there. What are those things? Not the troglodytes, but what are they called? Those
tardigrades.
Tardigrades, yeah, right.
Yeah, well, those little tiny things, but they're from us as well. They're not from outer space.
No, okay, but they can live there.
Yeah,
much. Yeah, that's amazing. So anyway, I was just thinking about all the movies we've seen where the organisms from outer space come down and wipe out the planet.
Yeah. But there's no way these things didn't get in the space shuttle from outside, through the exhaust or something. No.
The exhaust?
Yeah, well, when they flush the toilet or something.
Right, exactly.
No. These came with us. So
okay. Well, it's good to know, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Our next item, of course, this is just about worthless, as I say, no apparent Bitcoin. We talked about it last time. It was up around 20 grand a year ago.
Yeah.
Okay, it dropped yesterday. It dropped to around 3,600. Today, apparently, a lot of buying. It's back up to 45, 46. In other words, it gained almost $1,000 since yesterday. Talk about volatility, eh?
Hey, it is what it is. And by the way, if our anonymous Bitcoin donor is back out there.
Oh, yes.
This is our Bitcoin address and our Ethereum address. Please share this with your friends. You can, of course,
just snap it on your smartphone.
Scan these QR
we'll even
codes
take a piece of a Bitcoin.
That's right, exactly.
Even a couple of thousands of a Bitcoin would do just fine.
Yep. We're open to it, folks. We love Bitcoin.
We got in our earlier Jimmy Doane podcast. We actually got somebody who sent us a bunch of them.
I know.
And then they all disappeared in the mountains.
I've been living off one of them for 6 months.
Okay, so now here's the next thing we have, and that's on climate change. Trump's comments on climate change report debunked by scientists who wrote it. And what happened is Catherine Hayhoe took to Twitter to fact-check claims by Trump in the White House about the major climate change report. Now, we talked about this last time.
Yeah.
1,600 pages, dire consequences. We're all going to die.
Sure.
Water's going to go up 6 feet. Everybody's going to be, done and everything in the next 80 years.
Right.
Not even thinking about, as we said before, that things might change in 80 years to ameliorate that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally believe their science using their calculations based today. They're just not taking into account things like fusion power or Social Security or...
Social Security, yeah.
Well, I mean, you talk about 100 years from now. I mean,
right.
You're going to get trillions of dollars in deficit from the unfunded liabilities in advance of that.
Oh, yeah.
So what?
They're even talking. Yeah, they're talking about Medicare and Social Security is going totally broke within the next 20 years.
Right. Exactly.
So that's a problem.
Yeah.
So they inflate their way out of it. So that'll be interesting. So anyway, the second volume of the National Climate Assessment is the U.S. government's quote State of the Union on climate change, and apparently every 4 years they're supposed to do this climate
State
change
of the
thing.
Union. No,
and of course,
no implication of authority there.
Yeah, right. No, here's the deal. She works for the government, so here she comes up with a thing that says climate change is we're scared to death or what. She gets paid to do this.
But be careful. I don't want to imply that she is trying to be deceptive or unethical or anything like that. I believe.
No, but I think that the bias is when all this. If you're going to take the information, you can look at two different pictures and say, like I said, 80 years. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
but that doesn't count for anything.
And I'm going to even go and say she's not even necessarily needs to be biased. That is to say. You can believe all of the scientists, all the climate scientists that have signed the 97% thing or whatever. You can believe all the global warming scientists 100%, and there are still alternatives.
Right.
And it just because they put out their science doesn't mean there's not other science out there.
Right.
One of the things that the hanging dogs have talked about in the past are sun cycles and sunspots.
Right.
And
we're coming for the new minimum this year, I think, or next year.
Yes, and we will see. I think that there is much to be learned about the sun still, which, as we talked about before, comprises 98% of the mass or 99% of the mass in the solar system, produces 350 yodawatts of power every second, which is like... You can't even understand how many zeros there are on there. Right. It's ridiculous. And so, from my perspective, and of course it heats the planet on a daily basis, it's pretty obvious, since the Earth rotates around, how much of an impact the sun has.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, of course it is. Well, it's interesting because, as you say, you can take the, quote, today's science and try and extrapolate into the future, but in
a totally scientific way. Let me be clear, and that's why I don't. When people say you don't believe these scientists, like there's a meme going around right now. Look, NASA just landed this this Mars lander on Mars, 40 million miles, 50 million miles from Earth. After a 300 million mile trip or whatever, spinning everything right where, pinpoint. I mean, you cannot beat the science on this. And they're like, well, I trust these guys on climate change. And my thought is, yeah, okay, that's fine. But
how about the Hollywood actors that come out on climate change that were doomed?
Well, they're just trusting those scientists. But my point is that you can have conflicting areas of science which are 100% scientific, and one can overpower the other one. And if one field of science isn't aware of the other field of science, then they're not going to acknowledge it. It just doesn't come into effect. Like when you Google global warming papers these days, they all talk about carbon dioxide and such, and very, very few of them talk about things like sunspots and the sun. And so it's an entirely different field. If you're an expert on CO2, you're not necessarily going to be an expert on geology. Exactly. And you're not, or on fusion power. And so, I mean, you might not even know a scientist who has anything to do with fusion power. So there's more here than meets the eye. Is all.
Well, there's, as you say, there's unknown unknowns.
Right.
And you even specify
80 years. You think about how now think about the difference between 2018 and today. Okay. Nobody ever
in 2008 today.
Excuse me. No. I was going to say 1918.
Oh, 1918.
And 2018.
Yeah.
Nobody from 1918. Okay, right after seeing the freaking star come around the sun in the Einsteinian experience proving relativity could have possibly imagined what we are in today in terms of technology.
Oh.
Okay, but here's the other thing. Because of Moore's law and the increase in speed of the transformations, by
exponential.
By 2118, the level of change, the annual level of change in our technology, just the annual level will be ridiculous. It'll be like a 10-year span is today.
That's assuming we're all still here.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's just, again, I will say technology in 2118 is going to look like magic relative to what
I agree. Well, it's interesting because that brings up the one thing that Thomas Watson Sr., I think it was, in IBM, in the mid-40s, when the computers were they'd only had the UNIVAC out for a year or two. No, not IBM, but IBM was coming up with their own computer, the 70, whatever it was. And they said there would be a need for no more than 6 of these ever.
Yeah, that's it.
They had prepared for 6.
There's 6 in my iPhone right now.
That's right, exactly. Well, I mean, they were millions of dollars for these things, which are, card punch, and they're all. Anyway. So the two things that matter, two things that are important about climate change to continue on.
Yeah.
Good news is that Trump, in his battle with General Motors,
right?
Because General Motors has decided to close down some plants and lay off 15,000 people or something. And he's thinking, well, maybe we'll just cut the subsidies to
right.
And I'm thinking, well, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, what a great idea.
So now the electric cars will have to compete on a fair basis, and then you'll see what actually happens.
Right.
I mean, if you were to cut the subsidies, that would suddenly make even your fossil fuel cars look a lot more attractive.
Yeah.
I mean,
$5,000 more attractive.
At least. Yeah. At least. I mean, so he's thinking, so there's nothing wrong with that. Now, it was interesting. I did see a PBS special the other day on Netflix, I guess it was. David Pogue, who's been around forever. He's a computer kind of guy. And I think he writes maybe for the Wall Street Journal or he's a popular guy that writes for a lot of computer magazines. And he's kind of like John Stossel in a way that he's very photogenic and he can set the things up on his TV shows.
Okay.
He's TV-genic or whatever. I saw a PBS special on him about how, and he's talking about how electric cars are the wave of the future, and he went to...
Now they're closing the GM plant in Canada as well, right?
I think so, yeah.
I can take us to Canada. Watch this. I got Canada right here. Kablamo!
Oh, good deal. And
watch out for that there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so anyway, the deal is that he was talking about, this was a show about batteries. And he was talking about the evolution of batteries from, carbon zinc or whatever it was. And he goes through some theatrics, as you would expect. He made a battery on the seashore out of aluminum cans and something to power an iPhone. But, I mean, there was some stuff that was, no, he did. Seriously.
Right.
Then he went to the lithium batteries, and it turns out that the lithium ion, the reason they exploded was for this reason or that reason, and somebody else has come up with a way to stop that. Well, why isn't that everywhere? Well, I've got some more research to do, blah, blah, blah. But the main thing he was talking about was the batteries are going to be the wave of the future because of and be clean. And that way we can have our electric cars, and the only thing right now, the problem obviously is the charging business, 20, 40 minutes, 80 minutes, whatever.
Well, did he say we have a new technology that's going to allow the batteries to do that, or are we still...
He said they're working on it.
Yeah.
And there was some other girl he interviewed and she said, yeah, well, if we can double the density, and when you look at this thing and you realize the density of the power that's in those batteries, no wonder they're blowing up in fire. I mean, you're talking about 1,000 watts in a thing this small. And if you lose it, it's like short on a car battery.
Right.
Things melt.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one of the problems is when it shorts out is when it blows up. So, but anyway, the point is, what he doesn't take into account is the capital cost and the down the pipe cost on what it takes to produce the windmills, the wind generator things, the electric cars, the batteries. In other words, what kind of fossil fuels, if any, are involved in producing that stuff before you get to the savings that you talk about. For instance, you have to plug your car in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, the first thing you got is, we got a coal-fired plant out here.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that could be solved, as we talked about before. I mean, today we could solve that with nuclear. Just regular,
Yeah, well, the problem with nuclear is, there is a problem, and that is the liability. And that's why the government has to subsidize nuclear.
Yeah.
The liability, 3 Mile Island. People are going to.
Nobody died at 3 Mile Island.
I understand.
Nothing happened.
I understand.
I mean, Chernobyl was bad,
Yeah.
but look, I think the technology is well.
They have.
These
He
days.
did mention that just in the last dozen years or so, since Fujiyama or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, Fukushima, that was a tidal wave. I mean,
Right. Hard to prevent.
You can't. Nothing survives the tidal wave.
You're not going to put your nuclear plant on the San Andreas Fault, but they did.
But even like we've got, they were going to put one out here. We got Crystal River, right? And I mean, I guarantee you, there's sinkholes in the area. We could have a situation where the plant was sucked into a sinkhole and broke in that way. I don't know that there's too many ways you can. Huh?
Pretty slim. Sinkholes, generally speaking, are not that huge.
Well, I'm not a geologist, so I'm not going to say that. All I'm suggesting is that I think that there's always a chance of some kind of a natural disaster. Although those freaking nuclear power plants are incredibly tough. I think
Oh, I'm sure they are. Well, France has got like 80% of their power from nuclear.
Well, exactly.
So,
and if the French can do it, I mean...
Yeah, the cheese eaters.
Come on.
Yeah, what can anybody... But my point is that this all takes place far away down the pike. To build a nuclear plant, of permitting and everything like that, I don't know, what does it take, 10, 20 years or something? And that's just for nuclear. But then they're talking about, these giant solar arrays or giant wind farms.
If those things will die out. Those are like fads.
I have something on that, as a matter of fact, in just a moment. Turns out that they've decommissioned a wind farm someplace, I forget where it is, I've got it in here, after 20 years. And it turns out that the life expectancy of a wind farm is 20 years. And yet they issue bonds on it for 30 years. It's supposed to pay in 30 years. Well, there's a problem there. So I'll get to that in just a second. But the next thing on climate change is Twitter users burn Rick Santorum for saying climate scientists driven by money. Now, I talked about this because if you are working in a university, and you just have debunked this, you think, that if you think that they're going to issue a paper that says climate change doesn't matter a hoot, they're not going to get funded.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the people who wrote the paper that says that it does matter a hoot don't believe what they're writing.
That may be, but it pays you literally.
It sure pays.
In other words,
but it also pays to be right. So there's no way to distinguish between those two things. If you're the writer, you're getting paid because you think you wrote an awesome piece, not because those people have a political agenda. Well, all sorts of publishers who have political agendas. I'm going to agree with you there. That's where I think it's money driven is from the people. The thing is
that most of the subsidies in the universities come from the government.
Okay.
They're not funded by the students. So the point is, it comes from the government, and the government apparently has a vested interest in control.
What's the ratio of public universities to private these days?
I don't have a clue. Again, I really don't have any idea. Not that it really matters, because even the private ones, MIT, Harvard, they all get government subsidies. They all get huge government subsidies.
Yeah.
Medical schools, huge government subsidies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and the research for pharmaceutical companies all takes place, or not all, but much of it takes place in government, and they're doing that stuff. So
yeah.
But I'm saying that they burn him, but I have to agree with him that almost everything is driven by money on one level or another.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you got to find it. It's hard to find, but
you have to write it. You have to write a proposal that some bureaucrat is going to say we'll fund this, and
right.
And one of the things you do find out, of course, about bureaucrats is it's always easier to say no than it is to say yes. You don't get fired for saying no. You do if you yes and you make a mistake, unless you happen to fund Solyndra, and then everybody goes home happy.
Well, I mean, doesn't that cut against your argument? If it's easier to say no than yes, then
Well, when you do say yes, though, they got to really be safe, is what I'm saying. They got to really be super safe on the yes.
On the science, you mean?
Yeah, everything. In other words, they're not gonna say yes to something that's might get them in trouble. That's problematic.
That seems to cut against your argument. Are you saying that the people who are doing the funding should not say, or it's easy for them to say no to?
Well, no. Generally speaking, when you ask a bureaucrat to say no, because that's safe for the bureaucrat. No, it's because if anything goes wrong.
How is this put this in the context of the global warming? Or, I mean,
because when you apply to the government for a grant to do a climatic study,
right?
You had better put in your proposal that we intend to show how global warming is going to destroy the planet.
Okay.
And that's what you're going to.
That makes it easier to get funding.
Right. Exactly. But but if you were to put in your proposal, we disagree with that, and we intend to show positively that global warming is a non sequitur, has no business being blah blah. You wouldn't get funded.
Right. We agree there. I just don't know how that makes it, easier or harder for the funder. I mean, the funder is going to fund what they want to fund.
Well, they're going to fund what gives them their paycheck.
No, the funder, the person who is doing the funding.
Right. He doesn't want to get fired either. In other words, if he's
fired by who? They're
by
the
his
rich
boss.
Well, let's say.
I mean,
but that's the funder.
Well,
their boss is the funder.
Right.
I mean, so that
Well, they don't get fired anyway. You're right about that. I mean, they don't. Typically, if you're in government bureaucracy, you don't get fired. You have.
Well, or if you're rich, let's say you're George Soros, and you want to fund some studies on climate change. So you put out, you call universities up and you say, hey, we'd like to fund some studies. Do you have any scientists who know anything about global warming and the destruction that it's about to cause? And they go, oh, as a matter of fact, we do.
Yeah.
And then they call up those people who are full believers and fully scientific about what they're doing. And they're not doing it, it's money driven that they're going to do what they're going to do, but they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it for their pure science. But what I'm getting at is they don't necessarily know the other science involved.
Maybe not.
And they're not, and the other science involved is not going to get funded because Soros doesn't want to fund that science.
That's right.
So it's money driven.
Okay. I'll go along with that. I think we've kind of said
we said the same thing.
Sort of said the same thing, yeah. Speaking of money, the United Nations has approved the first emergency aid for Venezuela. The United Nations Emergency Fund released $9.2 million, which is like nothing, to Venezuela money to fund humanitarian programs, including health and
Did that
nutritional.
fall out the back of a truck or something?
No, well, not only that. Here's the deal. It reminds me of what Sam Kinison once said when he was talking about people starving in Africa.
Right.
And he says, you gotta move them. That's not where the food is.
Right.
Don't move the food to them. Move them where the food is. Excuse me.
Right.
I can't do Sam Kinison
Yeah, well, he's
without choking. But the point is that Venezuela is like on a thread, on a gossamer thread hanging by. And why would you fund something down there? I mean, talk about throwing good money after bad. So you're going to keep these people there when they should be traipsing over to Brazil, probably, or something. I don't know.
Well, I think that there's a real good argument to be made for sort of a popular overthrow of the government at this point.
Well, of course, it would have happened by now, you'd think. The one thing, of course, Maduro, you got to give him credit for one thing. He has managed to blame everybody but himself.
Well, of course.
And people are buying it.
Well, I think it's a combination of them buying it and him holding them down. And I think that it has to get really, really ugly before people actually do an armed revolt.
How ugly do you want it?
I mean,
eating
like
rats out of garbage?
No, that's not ugly enough. It's really not. No, it's not. It will take an armed crackdown against them. Once he starts sending out troops to get stuff, I mean, he's already done it to some extent.
Right.
But the more that the troops go out there and shoot people anyway.
Yeah.
Because then you're out there and you're like, I'm going to get shot anyway.
Right.
And
that's right. When you have nothing to lose.
Exactly. And that is the time when you turn, when you're like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's get a bunch of people together and storm the gates because we're going to get shot anyway.
Well, it reminds me of the final scene in V for Vendetta.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when everybody was wearing the masks, you know, what was it?
Guy Fawkes.
Guy Fawkes Day, yeah. And of course, finally, you know, there was all the troops were there and everything. And they started to march, and the troops finally said, we give up, forget it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's right. So maybe that's what'll happen. The police in the United Kingdom are piloting a project that uses artificial intelligence to determine how likely someone is to commit or be a victim of a serious crime. Hello, Minority Report.
Yeah.
I mean, God. And of course, they actually...
He's guilty of a pre-crime.
Yeah, well, what they're doing is they're saying, don't worry, not to worry, we're not actually going to use it for this.
Yeah, oh, no.
Yeah. Their hope is to use this information to detect potential criminals or victims and intervene with counselors.
Yeah.
Or social services before a crime takes place.
Yeah, uh-huh.
I'm sitting here, dubbed the National Data and Analytics Solution, aka the NDAS. The system pulls data from local and national police databases. The system has 1,400 indicators from this data that can help flag someone who may commit a crime, such as how many times someone has committed a crime.
Right.
With assistance as to how well many people in their network have committed crimes. All your friends who have you associated with. People in the database who are flagged by the system's algorithm as being prone to violent acts will get a risk score. Mm-hmm. Now, we talked last time about the China thing. Yeah. Remember?
This is the UK.
This is the UK! For God's sakes, wow. I mean, this is more a risk score, and they're going to be visited by a, quote, counselor.
Yeah, well, look, and as crazy as it sounds, I'm not going to argue against that kind of a system. Because here's why. Because from my perspective, cops are lazy. And they don't do the detective work that this kind of a system could do to link up the obvious clues about stuff that's going on. And as long as they're only going after the stuff that's obvious, I think that's okay. The problem is...
If it's obvious, why do they need this?
Because they don't do it anyway. I have literally called the police and told them...
Oh, I have too.
I know where the criminal is. They just stole the stuff. And they told me, oh, there's nobody here who can deal with that right now. Can you call back tomorrow?
Yeah.
And
I remember we had that.
Yeah. And so, to me, this is one of those situations where if they can launch a drone to go out there and check up on the situation.
Yes, that'd be perfect.
Like I said, as long as there not so many of them that they can check up on like all our penny ante poker games, then
look, it's just a computer. And
it doesn't judge which crimes are more.
I mean, totally. You got to.
No, but it would. What you do is you have it focused on like murder or terrorism or something or hate crimes.
So far,
no, I mean hate crimes.
So now you do, but
no.
Look, this as all bureaucracies go, this grows. Now that we've gotten rid of the murderers and the rapists, let's go after the pickpockets or the petty thieves or the people who pee on the sidewalk or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, well, we do incarcerate 25% of the world's prisoners here, so.
Donnelly told the news scientists that they don't plan to arrest anyone before they've committed a crime, but they want to provide counseling. So it reminds me a little bit of
they don't want to arrest him before, because that would be illegal. I guess we're not in Britain, though, probably.
Yeah, right. That's right.
But over here, it's interesting because, of course, we do have non-crimes that are crimes here. Right now. So even I mean, our situation here, from my perspective, is even worse than that already, because you can commit a crime without ever manifesting any criminal intent, and licensing violations, things like that. You can commit serious...
Oh, right, yeah, licensing. Yeah, I think I've got something on that here in a while, maybe. I saw
To me, drug crimes are not real crimes.
Oh, yeah, right.
DUI is not a real crime, and yet we send people to prison for we execute drug kingpins.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, there's no difference between these guys and the heads of the pharmaceutical companies. I mean, they're...
Yeah, well, this was nothing Scott Adams says. The fentanyl coming in from China, as far as he's concerned, is we should just send our under a Mossad type SWAT team in there to kill those people.
If it was going to be an equal thing, but what you want to do, of course, is the opposite, which is let everybody sell whatever they want to sell.
Yeah.
And let the market figure it out.
And let God sort them out.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's right. Well, this will be, they can cull, with that you can kind of cull the herd. Those people,
it's self-culling.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's right. They will kill themselves off, and what's left is, the producers.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, still on the list here, we just talked about this. Another one bites the dust. The Wisconsin wind farm decommissioned after just 20 years. And it's interesting, as I say, the problem is that they were only designed to last 20 years, and yet they on other stuff like coal-fired power plants or natural gas, and they're designed for 100 years or more.
Yeah, like indefinite time periods, pretty much.
Just about, and they can be upgraded. So as we have here, ours has been upgraded. It used to be Deerhaven up here, I believe, was coal-fired, and now it's natural gas. I think, I'm not sure. It's one or the other. Okay, now the next thing that happens, big news. I'm just trying to think here about what goes on here. Let me run real quick. The man who had a heart attack after Hawaii missile alert sues.
Yeah.
He's a man who suffered a heart attack shortly after Hawaii mistakenly issued an alert about a ballistic missile has filed a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Claiming, harm and everything like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, of course, what would have happened if it had been a real alert? Mm-hmm. He'd died anyway, or had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Just so, the fact that this was a mistake, accidents happen, and he's going to send, hoping for a big payday. His girlfriend joined in the lawsuit, having suffered, quote, emotional upset from watching him almost die.
Hey, it's worth the shot.
I know,
worth the shot.
What kind of
But there's no way they'll make
better
it.
call Saul.
Right,
What kind
exactly.
of attorney is this?
Yeah. But they won't get anywhere because there would be far too much liability for. Hawaii would go broke paying freaking people off. It was a ridiculous thing. You remember what happened, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the alarm went off, and they tweeted out, "This is not a drill."
Right.
And they hit the wrong button.
The wrong button. It's the red button, not the green button.
That's right.
You had one job. Okay?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
You had
One button over here. One button.
You had two buttons, and you had one job. So
Got it wrong.
got it wrong. Oh, really? And then the next item, political item, and this is again kind of goes against the thing. Just another item that I like. Leaving Afghanistan would cause a greater problem, says a former CIA paramilitary officer. Now, one of the things that caught me about this headline was who's saying it. You consider the source. Is a former CIA guy who was sent to Afghanistan day one, 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. He's seen the whole thing. The U.S. and he says now, after 17 years, the U.S. must maintain a strong presence in Afghanistan in order to both prevent the Taliban from regaining outsized power and keep the existing Afghan government afloat, says Phil Riley, special guy. He was among the 10 officers that made up the first CIA team deployed just 15 days after September 11. Absent a U.S. president's strong presence helping to fight the enemy presence there, Riley said, I don't think the Afghan government can do it on its own. You would have a greater problem if we leave.
Which is
what? I don't think that my grandchildren should be going to Afghanistan, he says. But I don't see how we can, don't see how we can remove the capability that is there. Even the forces that do remain can't stop suicide bombs and attacks throughout the capital. The enemy can do that with impunity and does. He added that the best outcome for the United States would hope the conflict will remained a very, very tough question, or that it will remain a very tough question. I don't see any resolution to our current stance. Hope is not a business plan. I've just said that so many times. We hope 17 years.
Or a military strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Especially military strategy.
Right.
The thing that gets me about this is that the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah, but that's also the definition of perseverance.
17 years?
Look,
if you don't exceed, try again. Not try again.
Yeah, look, it is. If that's the real solution, then that's what you do. But we have pointed out a million times, and everybody else has as well, there are only two ways you can go and do an armed conflict in another country. And one is to do what we've done, which is to go over there and mess around and kill who we wanted to, and then now we should leave. And the other is to go in there and take over and never leave, ever. There's only two choices. You either stay forever or at some point you leave. And what we know is if at some point you leave, you create a power vacuum.
Absolutely.
And then somebody presumably whoever's worse than the people you took out,
Right.
get in there.
Right.
And we always try to, we're going to hand it over to the good rebels
That's
or whatever
right.
it is.
Right.
And it's just been a fool's
Our
errand.
rebels are better than your
Yeah,
rebels.
it's been a ridiculously, a bunch of 18-year-olds, like we can trust them.
Yeah.
And this has been the MO for a long time. We always knew it, but sorry, that's the end game is we leave Afghanistan because we're not making it the 51st state.
Yeah.
Trust me, it ain't gonna happen in any time in the next 100 years.
Well, there's two things that are considered here also. They don't call that area the death of empires for nothing. No
It's a
empire.
desert.
It's mountains too. It's
Right.
mountainous caves.
Although
desert.
we did talk about the mineral deposits there last time.
Well, that's right. Okay, that's fine. But it's interesting. Well, in all, U.S. spending on the conflict there has estimated now to have surpassed $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Now, they ask yourself, if we'd never showed up over there,
Mm-hmm.
and the Taliban, whoever it was there, the corrupt people had were still in and had been confined mostly
Mm-hmm.
to whatever they do, however they kill themselves, what could we have done with $1 trillion?
Our debt would only be $20 trillion.
That's right, instead of 21. That's right. So there you have it. No, it's just, to me, it's stunning. This guy who's been involved in the conflict for the 17 years, one of the first ones there, still now, and still says, I don't know.
Well, it makes sense. Once you're that invested in it. I mean, he spent 17 years of his life there. You think he's
Right.
going to say, as a mistake. We should forget all about that stuff.
No, he's not.
No.
No, gotta stay. Gotta stay
And then-
forever.
Well, no. Of course, what he said is not so long that my grandkids will
Right.
be involved in it.
Well, you think about it for a
But-
second. There are children
For as long
of
as
the
I can
first people
foresee.
over there that are over there now. I mean, if you went over there when you were
25,
25 and you had a kid that was
10-year-old
5
or something, yeah.
Yeah, the kid's now 21 or something
Right.
like that is over there. Military family. Hey, Dad, I'm going to go in. Yeah.
Well, I'm on the side of the Bobby plan, what I call the Bobby, which is bring our boys home yesterday.
Yeah.
Bring our boys back. It's like bring them back, man. This is crazy. Get out of there and leave it to them, and however it deteriorates, we'll be able to handle it over here. And it's unfortunate, and yes. All the people we befriended during the whole conflict and swore that we would never leave or never.
We have a history of that. We left Vietnam.
We do, and what we should do with those people is say, look, you know what? You can come with us. And we've done that too. We got some of my best friends are Koreans and Vietnamese.
Yeah. Well,
And,
we got it next door here.
Yeah, I mean, so pack it up and come on over. If you were the good guys, you got a free
But it's
pass.
interesting you should say that because every once in a while you hear the horror story. This may be anecdotal of somebody who was a translator. And actually was on our side, and he said they promised him you can come over to the U.S. And then when he applied, they said, "Oh, well, you're not qualified." Bye.
That's right.
So, anyway, they talked about that on.
Your English isn't good enough.
Yeah, right. Your English isn't good enough. Too good. Crackdown on snow shoveling scofflaws revealed that scolding them is I don't know what that's all about. A Minneapolis city official who backed a get tough approach on residents who don't shovel snow from their sidewalks was herself the subject of 7 complaints last winter and issued a fine of $149. Now I don't know about you, but here, if somebody complains about something, $149 is just the beginning. 7 citations here would be thousands of dollars. If you don't clean up your yard here, after the 3rd citation, they start really hitting you. Anyway, that doesn't really matter. The thing about it is they have a law that says that you must, within a very short period of time after the snow, you must shovel the snow on the public sidewalk in front of your house. And if you don't, it's a fine. It's illegal. We can arrest you. And I'm thinking, this is interesting, especially, of course, the irony here, of course, was this is one of the commissioners who made the law,
right?
And she is, now being cited 7 times. Yeah. We've owned our house for 10 years. We're a family of 2 working parents with 2 small children, small violin, and we do the very best.
Get them out there.
Yeah, get them out there. Yeah, violin, whatever. She says she supports a stricter approach so that sidewalks remain clear this winter. There are times when we just haven't gotten to it, and that's why the city's enforcement mechanism is there. I should be treated like every other property owner, city inspectors will be more proactive this winter in searching for unshoveled sidewalks and issuing notices of violations. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, you know, of course, it reminds me a little bit here of what happens at the end of my street, because not shoveling your snow in a city this size or whatever has got to be something that is right. This is like a parking violation almost, but it's $150. Mm-hmm. And here downtown, if you overstay the marked parking meter, it's $100 or something like that. And
I don't know,
it's a bunch.
15.
No, don't
I've
you
gotten
wish.
a couple.
Okay. When?
Last few years.
Yeah, maybe 10 years ago, maybe. Anyway, whatever it may though. Mm-hmm. Down here at the end of the street when they hide out with the little radar gun.
Mm-hmm. That's 150.
That's $150.
Yeah.
And it's entrapment. So anyway, but same thing. I mean, I look at this as if they're going to run around and say, you know, your sidewalk is not. I mean, how long does it take? They have what I've seen, of course, is. And I guess maybe it's anecdotal, but the parking meter ladies or whatever it is, they hang around, and when the thing clicks over, bang, there's the ticket. And they've had people that come out and say, no, sorry, ticket through. Or the towing. You know, you run out there, no, I've already...
Well, the tow people I can understand because it's private business. They get called. They've already invested into that kind of stuff. Once they've hooked up your car, you can't do anything about it.
No, I know that.
You got to pay them. Of course, the parking meter people, from my perspective, if you run out there right after the thing or right while they're writing the ticket, they ought to tear it up. It's the same, you're within the time frame. But I mean, the sidewalk thing. What are you worried about? It spinning out of control in some way. I mean, the sidewalk it is almost pretty much your property. I mean, you're the one who uses it. Your kids out there playing on the sidewalk and that kind of stuff.
I think I'm not sure.
They probably maintain the sidewalk otherwise. I mean, in terms of the cement and such to a certain degree.
Yeah, but there are some places where if you have grass between the sidewalk and
right.
the road, you're responsible for that.
Yeah.
In some jurisdictions.
Yeah, and I could see that. I mean, it is right out in front of your house.
Well, the road is out in front of my house. There's a pothole in it. So I'm not responsible for that, and they're not going to fix it.
Well, they are. At some point.
At some point, yeah. But
that's right.
That's what.
Now, that being said, let me just say I'm not in any way for forced municipal regulations that have to do with your own home. From my perspective, I think that's a bunch of crap. I mean, when they're telling you stuff like for example, you can't park a motorhome on your property, like right out here,
yeah,
because it's some kind of violation of some kind of zoning thing where you can't keep. It's like, what the hell is that? If I have a boat, I can't pull my boat up in my front yard. My front yard? Is it my front yard or is it different?
I can't park, as we know, other than 7 days a year. I can't park other people's cars on my front lawn. I have to get a permit for that.
Right.
And even with the permit, I still only get 7 days.
No. For the other days, you can park.
No. If I have a party and people start parking on my lawn and I have 20 cars on my lawn, citation. No, absolutely guaranteed. I positively guarantee you. The permit that you get here for $52 here in Gainesville allows you game days plus graduation day. That's it.
Yeah, but I think that's just for the commercial enterprise. I don't think there's a blanket ban otherwise.
No, and I'll tell you how they got around it. I mean, why they started it was because there were students that were in the house, and there were 3 or 4 or 5 students, and they all had their cars parked out there, so they passed north. They can't do that.
Oh, okay.
Ever.
Right.
So
yeah. See, to me, that's BS.
Yeah, of course. Okay, now the last item I've got is our big scientific news du jour, which is NASA's InSight space flight from Mars reveal a smooth and rocky terrain. Now, we're not going to get the big pictures until another couple of days, but it was stunning, amazing. I mean, I sat there live, and of course they're talking about it being in real time, which of course technically it wasn't. There's an 8-minute delay from Mars to get a signal here, but they had...
It's definitely a perigee then. Or apogee.
Well, whatever. No, the point is it's past it a little bit. Not much. We're a lot closer. We're not the closest. When it landed, we're not...
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
But we're pretty close. It's not the other side of the sun.
If it's 8 minutes, it is. Because it's only 50 million miles away when we're on the same side.
Well, do the math.
Yeah, well, I just did. We're 93 million miles away from the sun. That's
9 minutes.
Okay, and so we're 50 million miles.
That's right. You're right. Maybe that's the round trip.
Probably.
Yeah, that could be the round trip.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, they have, but still, it's
not exactly real time.
not exactly real time, right? But anyway, they were, high five. We talked about this last time about, how many consoles do you need just to watch them? But I think that I'm excited to see that it was perfectly done. I mean, on the nose, they were within like a foot of where they knocked it out of the park. The whole thing unfolded perfectly. There, sunshine, whatever it is, the whole deal, and this
Everybody gets a bonus.
And the two little suitcases are up there doing what they're supposed to do as far as relaying stuff back here. I mean, this is definitely a fait accompli or fate du jour or whatever you want to call it. I mean, this gives me, of course, the new hope, and of course the beauty is that the two of these things that we talked about before are these suitcase-sized things that cost quite literally a tenth to make and a tenth to ship. So the sky's the limit, so to speak.
yeah.
Pun.
So I'm just playing our tech update music since that's kind of a tech issue.
Okay.
And I have a couple of tech update things real quick. You said you're done?
Yes.
Okay. Just super fast. We'll do a real quick tech update. You see, they're talking about designer kids in China.
Yes, I saw that.
But I'll say this:
The kickback's been not good.
with 1 billion base pairs or more for DNA, they're not going to have any super soldiers anytime soon.
Oh, okay.
Because you think about the possible combinations. I mean, it's near infinite. I mean, there's no
More than two.
Oh, man, I mean, like 1 billion raised to 1 billion power. Or
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, come on. Louisiana.
What about that though? A lot of other scientists, I think even in China, said, "Ooh, what are you doing?"
Yeah, well, everybody's a little worried.
Yeah.
But I mean, they'll do it eventually. I mean, get some quantum computers involved with it, and they'll figure out the right combinations. Louisiana is going to allow drivers to use digital driver's licenses. Now, for a while, they're going to still issue you a card backup, but the bottom line is they're going to people's phones. And something like 90% of adults under 30 have a smartphone.
Okay.
And something like 75% of the rest of us do.
Yeah.
So they're figuring if you can have it on your phone or on an app, why not? It's kept on the cloud. Then they can update it with your tickets and whatever else in real time and all that kind of stuff.
And still follow you around.
Well, yeah. Well, what? We're not watching.
Well, this is what I've always said. The one thing you do is when anything like that happens, is you go buy yourself a little snack in an aluminum pouch, dump the snack out or eat it or whatever, throw your phone in there, and then it's
There you go. And finally, Ohio is going to accept Bitcoin for payments now for taxes.
We didn't talk about that?
No, I don't think so. But just super quick. But of course, they're going to transfer it into dollars
Instantaneously.
Right.
It's going to be, that Bitcoin is going to be there for a nanosecond. And of course, they're probably going to take a little piece of the action. If
you think?
Yeah. Well, think about it. If you paid your taxes in Bitcoin yesterday at $3,600.
Yeah, right.
Today it's $4,600.
Well, all right. And then I've got another regular note here. I can take us to the parks. Whoops. And let me just get this over here. And see how this goes. There's a story about Trump reducing the size of two national parks.
Really?
Yes.
Now, that's been around for a while, I
A
think.
bunch of people are kind of upset. I don't think so. I just saw it last week. Anyway,
Okay.
This one, Bear's Ears, and another one, National Staircase.
Okay, and how large are they?
Huge.
Okay,
I mean,
we're talking about 1 million acres or something.
oh, 1 million? No, these.
I spit on 1 million, right?
Exactly. No, I just doing some numbers. I'm going to post up a picture here of the. This is federal land,
Right.
here.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. So you think there's enough federal land for them to do a little park? Now we're talking about an area here in Nevada that is going to be sold off or given away. Actually, they're not even going to do that. I think they're just going to open it up to various commercial uses.
Sure.
Which, from my perspective, sell it off.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that.
The U.S., as you can see from this map, owns 27.4% of all land in the United States.
Right.
The
Now,
majority
you
of it's-
understand that a big chunk of that is in Alaska.
66% of Alaska they own. which is, but they also own 50% of 11 contiguous western states.
Wow.
Yeah. Now in the east, is only 4% of the land in the east is federal, but you look at that map. This dividing line right here, you can see 50% of these states is owned by the federal authorities. So I can take us down here to Bears Ears, and oops. There we go.
Yeah, I got a bear there. Okay,
That's right.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm in Grand Staircase, and you are at a bear park.
That's
I
right.
think, so
Getting ready to fish for salmon.
that's right.
It's and I'm one of these people that said that they should, you're talking about the homesteading business or whatever it is. There's tons of land that they could sell off.
Yeah. Exactly.
Tons. And
exactly.
It would depress the price of some of the local other stuff maybe, but still, if you've got 1 million acres something, you can't, the Bureau of Land Management, they can't manage it.
Seriously, every one of those migrant people could have a 5-acre plot.
Easy.
Yeah,
and you wouldn't even notice it.
Wouldn't even notice. It wouldn't even show up on that map that I just showed as a white spot. It would it would be 1 pixel.
Yeah,
not even.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, so all right. Well, hey, it's 5 o'clock, so I guess we should wrap it up.
We started a couple minutes late, so we ended a couple minutes late. Well, thank you for coming in, and tell your friends about us.
That's
and
right.
Give us a like or whatever you do, however that works. And we're going to post. This is going to be posted for archival sake, right?
Absolutely. We'll be on Twitter and a couple of places, and
The Jimmy Doane website
and YouTube as well.
Facebook.
So I want to say thanks to Kevin McLeod right there. This is Matt's Blues, and our other song was Cold Funk. That's our tech update song, if you could hear it. So, like Jimmy said, thanks for joining us. Let's see.
We'll be back Sunday.
We had Dan and Vicky and Jeff and John, Donald. Great to see you guys. Thanks so much. And like I said, I'll get Jimmy on the comments here, and we'll see if we can get some answers. So, I'm Councilor Curtis.
Yes.
And this is and has been the Jimmy Doane Show. So please join us again if you had any fun next Sunday at 4 o'clock, or this Sunday at 4 o'clock, I guess. We will be here on this channel.
Let's see, 28. Let's see, November has. So that'll be in December, won't it?
Yeah, December 2nd.
2nd, is that what it is?
I think so.
So let's see, that'd be the 2nd, right?
Okay. So,
Merry Christmas, everybody.
that's right. All right. Thanks so much. See ya.